The slap echoed through the great hall. Iris barely felt it anymore. Her cheek burned, but the pain was familiar, an old companion she had learned to accept years ago. She kept her head down, her eyes fixed on the floor, her hands clasped tight to stop them from shaking. Useless, her stepmother hissed. Absolutely useless. I ask you to do one simple thing. One thing. And you can't even manage that. The thing had been arranging flowers for the visiting delegation. Iris had done it perfectly, as far as she could tell. But perfection was never good enough for Lady Moira Ashford. Nothing Iris did was ever good enough. I'm sorry, stepmother. The words came out flat, mechanical. She had said them so many times they had lost all meaning. Sorry doesn't fix the centerpiece. Sorry doesn't impress the Lycan king. Lady Moira's lip curled with disgust. Go to your room. I don't want to look at you anymore. And pray that His Majesty doesn't notice what a disappointment you are. Iris curtsied and fled. She didn't go to her room. She went to the garden instead. The one place in her father's estate where she could breathe. The roses were blooming, red and white and pink, filling the air with sweetness that almost masked the bitterness lodged in her throat. 22 years. She had endured 22 years of this. Her mother had died when she was 4, and her father had remarried within the year. Lady Moira had seemed kind at first, all smiles and gentle words, at least until the wedding vows were spoken. Then the mask had slipped, and Iris had discovered what cruelty really looked like. Her father never noticed, or if he did, he didn't care. He was too busy with his business dealings, his political ambitions, his endless pursuit of wealth and status. Iris was an afterthought at best, an inconvenience at worst. And her stepsisters, Moira's daughters from her first marriage, had learned their mother's cruelty well. They mocked Iris for her plain dresses and ink-stained fingers, laughed at her love of books and flowers, called her names she tried not to remember late at night when sleep wouldn't come. Useless, worthless, burden, mistake. She had heard them all so many times she had started to believe them. You shouldn't be out here alone. Iris spun around, her heart leaping into her throat. A man stood at the edge of the garden, massive, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and eyes that gleamed gold in the fading light. He was dressed simply, in dark travelling clothes, but there was nothing simple about his presence. He radiated power the way the sun radiated heat. I'm sorry. She dropped into a curtsy, her mind racing. A guest. He had to be part of the visiting delegation. If Lady Moira found out she had been seen looking dishevelled in the garden, I didn't realize anyone was... Don't apologize. His voice was low, rough. I'm the one intruding. I needed air. These formal dinners make me restless. Iris risked a glance up at him. His expression was unreadable, but not unkind. You're part of the delegation? You could say that. Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. And you are? Iris. Iris Ashford, Lord Ashford's daughter. His daughter. The man's eyes narrowed slightly. I was told he had only stepdaughters, 2 of them. Of course. Of course, Lady Moira had erased her from the family narrative. It shouldn't still hurt after all these years. But somehow it did. I'm from his first marriage, she said quietly. My mother died when I was young. I'm not... She stopped, unsure how to finish the sentence. Not important, not acknowledged, not worth mentioning. Not what? Nothing. She forced a smile. I should go. I'm not supposed to be out here. It was nice to meet you, sir. She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. Your cheek! Her hand flew to her face before she could stop it. The mark from Lady Moira's slap must still be visible, red against her pale skin, impossible to hide. It's nothing. The lie came out practiced, smooth. I fell. Clumsy of me. You're lying. The words were quiet, but they hit her like a blow. She turned back to face him, and his golden eyes were burning with something that looked almost like anger. Who hit you? No one. I told you I fell. You're lying, he repeated. I can hear it in your heartbeat. I can smell the fear on you. He took a step closer, and Iris fought the urge to flee. Who hit you? She didn't know why she told him. Maybe it was the intensity in his gaze. Maybe it was the fact that no one had ever asked before, not like they actually cared about the answer. Maybe she was just tired of carrying the secret alone. My stepmother. The words came out as a whisper. She hits me when I disappoint her, which is often. She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. I'm useless, apparently, good for nothing, a burden on the family. The man was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was dangerously soft. She said those things to you? Your stepmother? Everyone says those things to me. Iris shrugged, trying to pretend it didn't matter. My stepmother. My stepsisters. My father, when he bothers to notice I exist. I'm the family disappointment, the mistake they can't get rid of. And you believe them? The question caught her off guard. What? Do you believe them? That you're useless, worthless, a burden? Iris opened her mouth to say yes. Of course she believed them. How could she not, after 22 years of hearing nothing else? But something in his expression made her hesitate. Something fierce and patient and utterly sincere. I don't know, she admitted finally. I don't know what I believe anymore. The man studied her for a long moment. Then he did something she didn't expect. He smiled. Good, he said. That means there's still hope. Before she could ask what he meant, the sound of voices drifted from the house. The dinner party must be ending. Iris's heart seized with panic. I have to go. If they find me here... Wait. He caught her arm, gently, not demanding. What's your name again? Iris. Iris. He said it like it mattered, like she mattered. I'm going to remember that. Then he released her, and she fled into the house, her heart pounding with something that felt dangerously like hope. She didn't sleep that night, couldn't stop thinking about golden eyes and rough voices and the way he had looked at her, like she was someone worth looking at. It wasn't until the next morning, when the household assembled to formally greet the delegation, that she learned the truth. The man from the garden wasn't part of the delegation. He was the delegation. King Caelan of the northern Lycans, the most powerful ruler in the known world, the monster from the stories, who could tear men apart with his bare hands and had conquered kingdoms with nothing but his will. He stood at the head of the great hall, towering over everyone else, and when his golden eyes found Iris in the crowd, he smiled. The same smile from the garden, the same warmth, the same promise. And then he spoke. Lord Ashford, I understand you have 3 daughters? Her father blinked, confusion flickering across his face. Yes, Your Majesty, my wife's daughters, Cordelia and Beatrice. And Iris. The room went silent. Lady Moira's face drained of colour. Her father's mouth opened and closed like a fish. She's from my first marriage. She's not... Not what? The king's voice cut like a blade. Not worth mentioning? Not important enough to introduce to a visiting king? His golden eyes swept the room, and everyone flinched. I met her in the garden last night. She was hiding a mark on her face. Someone had hit her. Lady Moira made a small, strangled sound. I asked her who she was. The king continued. She told me she was useless, a burden, a disappointment. He took a step forward, and Iris's father stumbled back. Those are interesting words for a daughter to use about herself. I wonder where she learned them. Your Majesty. Lady Moira's voice was tight with panic. I can explain. I'm not interested in explanations. The king's gaze shifted to Iris, and his expression softened. I'm interested in her. The room erupted in whispers. Iris felt the blood drain from her face. Your Majesty, her father stammered. I don't understand. Then let me be clear. The Lycan king crossed the room until he stood before Iris. He was even more imposing in the daylight, massive, powerful, utterly terrifying. But when he looked at her, his eyes held nothing but warmth. Your family calls you useless, he said quietly. They treat you as worthless. They've spent 22 years telling you that you don't matter. Iris couldn't speak, could barely breathe. They're wrong. He lifted his hand and cupped her unmarked cheek. Gently, so gently. You matter. And if they can't see that, then they don't deserve you. Your Majesty, Lady Moira stepped forward, her face a mask of desperation. Surely you don't mean to… I mean exactly what I'm saying. The king didn't look away from Iris. If you're useless to them, then I'll take you. You'll come to my kingdom, where you'll be valued, protected, cherished. His thumb traced her cheekbone. If you want to. I don't… Iris's voice came out as a whisper. I don't understand. Why would you… Because something in me recognized something in you last night. Because my wolf has been restless ever since, demanding that I claim you. Because I think you might be my mate. His golden eyes blazed. And because no one, should be treated the way they've treated you. The hall was utterly silent. Lady Moira looked like she might faint. Her father had gone grey. And Iris felt something crack open inside her, something that had been locked away for 22 years. Yes, she whispered. I'll come with you. The king smiled, fierce and tender and triumphant all at once. He turned to face her family, and his expression hardened into something cold. She's mine now, he announced. And if any of you ever come near her again, you'll answer to me. Then he wrapped his cloak around her shoulders, took her hand, and led her out of the house where she had suffered for 22 years. Iris didn't look back. The journey to the Northern Kingdom took 4 days. 4 days of riding in a carriage more comfortable than any bed Iris had ever slept in. 4 days of eating food that wasn't scraps left over from her family's meals. 4 days of Kaelan checking on her, asking if she needed anything, looking at her with those golden eyes that seemed to see straight through to her soul. She kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. It never did. You're quiet, Kaelan observed on the 3rd evening, sitting across from her in the carriage as the sun set over the mountains. You've been quiet since we left. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be. Don't apologize. His voice was gentle but firm. I'm not criticizing. I'm asking. What are you thinking about? Iris looked down at her hands, clasped in her lap. They were soft now, Lady Moira had never let her do the truly rough work, not wanting to explain calluses on a lord's daughter, but they still bore small scars, burns from candles knocked over in the dark, cuts from accidents her stepsisters had arranged. "I'm thinking about why," she said quietly. "Why you did this. Why you took me away. Why you're being so kind." "I told you why. You said I might be your mate, but that's not—" She struggled to find the words. "That's not a reason to upend your entire diplomatic visit, to make enemies of my family, to take responsibility for someone you barely know." Kalen was quiet for a moment. Then he leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "Do you know what I saw when I looked at you in that garden?" he asked. Iris shook her head. "I saw a woman who had been beaten down so thoroughly that she believed the lies they told her, who thought she was useless because no one had ever told her otherwise, who had so much fire in her eyes, so much intelligence and strength and beauty, and didn't even know it was there." His voice roughened. "I saw someone worth saving, someone worth fighting for." Her eyes burned. "You don't know me." "I know enough. I know you survived 22 years of abuse without becoming cruel yourself. I know you love books and flowers and quiet gardens. I know you looked at me, a monster from the stories, a king who could have you executed with a word, and told me the truth about your family because you were too tired to lie anymore." He reached across the carriage and took her hand. "That takes courage, Iris. More courage than most people have in their entire lives." "It wasn't courage. It was exhaustion. Sometimes they're the same thing." She laughed, a wet, broken sound, and wiped at her eyes with her free hand. "I don't know what to do with this, with you, with any of it. I've spent my whole life being told I'm worthless, and now you're telling me I'm— what? Valuable? Important? I don't know how to believe that." "Then don't believe it yet." He squeezed her hand. "I'm not asking you to change overnight. I'm asking you to give me a chance, to let me show you who you really are, instead of who they told you to be." "And if you're wrong? If I really am just—" "You're not." He cut her off with absolute certainty. "You're not useless, Iris. You're not worthless. You're not a burden or a mistake or any of the other lies they filled your head with. And I will spend the rest of my life proving it if that's what it takes." She didn't know what to say, so she just held onto his hand and let the tears fall, and he didn't try to stop them. Just held her hand and let her grieve for the girl she might have been. If anyone had ever told her she mattered, the Northern Kingdom was nothing like she had imagined. Iris had expected cold stone and harsh winds, a castle as forbidding as the Lycan king's reputation. Instead, she found warmth. The castle was built into the side of a mountain, yes, but inside it glowed with firelight and colour. Tapestries hung on every wall. Servants bustled through the corridors with purpose and energy, and when they saw their king arrive with a woman on his arm, they didn't sneer or whisper. They smiled. "Word travels fast," Kalen murmured, guiding her through the entrance hall. "They've been hoping I would find a mate for centuries. They're probably already planning the wedding." "Wedding?" Iris stumbled over the word. "But we haven't— I mean, I didn't agree to—" "I know. I'm not proposing. Not yet." He smiled at her, and there was something almost shy in his expression. "I told you. We'll take this at whatever pace you need. But I should warn you, my people are enthusiastic. They might be a bit overwhelming at first." Overwhelming was an understatement. Over the following days, Iris was inundated with attention. The castle seamstress arrived to take her measurements for new gowns. The head cook sent up trays of food, determined to put some weight on her too thin frame. The housekeeper assigned her the finest guest chambers, and then fretted that they weren't fine enough. Everyone, it seemed, wanted to make sure the king's intended mate was comfortable. Intended mate. The words still felt surreal. "They're going to smother you with kindness," Kaelin said one evening, finding her in the library where she had retreated to escape the well-meaning chaos. "I apologize. They don't mean any harm. They're just excited." "I'm not used to people being excited about me." Iris set down the book she had been trying to read. "I'm not used to people noticing me at all, unless it's to criticize." "That's going to change." He settled into the chair across from her. "Whether you become my queen or not, you're under my protection now. No one in this kingdom will ever treat you the way your family did. I'll make sure of it." "Why do you keep doing that?" "Doing what?" "Giving me escape routes." She met his eyes. "You keep saying, whether you become my queen or not. You keep emphasizing that I have a choice, that I can leave if I want to. Why?" Kaelin was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "Because I've seen what happens when people are trapped. When they have no choices, no agency, no control over their own lives. I've seen the light go out of their eyes, watched them become shadows of who they were meant to be." He held her gaze. "I won't do that to you. I refuse to be another person who takes away your choices. If you stay, I want it to be because you want to stay, not because you feel obligated, not because you have nowhere else to go, because you choose me. And if I don't, if I decide this isn't what I want, then I set you up somewhere safe, with enough resources to live comfortably, and I spend the rest of my very long life missing you." A sad smile crossed his face. "It would destroy me, Iris, but I would do it, because your happiness matters more to me than my own." She stared at him. This massive, powerful king who had taken her from her family and brought her to his kingdom, who had every right to demand whatever he wanted from her, who instead sat across from her in a library, offering her freedom she had never known. "I don't understand you," she whispered. "I know." He rose from his chair and crossed to her, crouching down so they were at eye level. "But you will. Given time, you'll understand that not everyone in the world is looking to hurt you. That kindness can exist without strings attached, that you are worthy of love, real love, the kind that doesn't demand anything in return." He reached up and brushed a strand of hair from her face. His touch was gentle, reverent. "I love you, Iris," he said quietly. "I know it's too soon. I know you don't trust it. But I need you to know. I love you, and I will wait as long as it takes for you to believe it." She should pull away, should remind him that they barely knew each other, that love couldn't happen this fast, that she was too broken for fairy tale endings. Instead, she leaned into his touch and closed her eyes. "I want to believe it," she admitted. "I want to believe all of it. I'm just scared." "I know." He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "That's okay. We'll be scared together." And somehow, impossibly, that made everything feel like it might actually be all right. The weeks turned into months, and Iris began to bloom. It happened slowly, so slowly she barely noticed at first. The dark circles under her eyes faded. Her cheeks filled out with regular meals. She stopped flinching when people approached her, stopped bracing for blows that never came. She learned to walk through the castle with her head held high instead of her eyes fixed on the floor. And she discovered, to her amazement, that she wasn't useless at all. The castle's head gardener had taken one look at her love of flowers and conscripted her immediately. Within weeks, Iris had transformed the neglected herb garden into something beautiful. Rows of medicinal plants and fragrant blossoms, carefully tended and meticulously organized. The kitchen staff praised her lavender. The healers marveled at her chamomile. Even the gruff old gardener admitted grudgingly that she had a gift. "You never told me you could do this," Kaylin said one afternoon, finding her elbow deep in soil, a smudge of dirt on her cheek, and a genuine smile on her face. "I didn't know I could." She sat back on her heels, surveying her work with quiet pride. "My stepmother never let me near the gardens at home, said I would just ruin them. But here," she gestured at the thriving plants around her, "here, things grow. Everything grows when it's given the chance." He crouched beside her, heedless of his fine clothes, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Including you." She leaned into his touch. It had become easier over the months, accepting his affection, returning it. The walls she had built around her heart were crumbling, piece by piece, worn down by his relentless patience and unwavering kindness. "I think I might be happy," she admitted. The words felt foreign on her tongue. Dangerous, almost. Like saying them out loud might make them disappear. "You deserve to be happy." He kissed her forehead. "You deserve everything good in this world. I only wish you believed that." "I'm starting to." She met his eyes. "You're making me believe it." Something fierce blazed in his golden gaze. "Iris, I love you." The words slipped out before she could stop them. She felt heat rush to her cheeks, panic rising in her chest. Too soon. Too much. She shouldn't have said it. Shouldn't have. Kaylin kissed her. Not gentle. Not tentative. He kissed her like a man who had been drowning and finally found air. His hands cupped her face, tilting her head back, and she melted into him with a sigh that came from somewhere deep in her soul. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. "Say it again," he demanded, his voice rough. "I love you. Again." "I love you, Kaylin." She laughed, giddy and overwhelmed. "I love you. I don't know when it happened. I don't know how. But I do. I love you." "I love you too." He pressed his forehead to hers. "I have loved you since the moment I saw you in that garden, trying so hard to be invisible. I will love you until my last breath and beyond." She kissed him again, because she could, because she wanted to, because for the first time in her life she was allowed to want things. His arms came around her, pulling her close, and she felt safe in a way she had never imagined possible. "Marry me," he murmured against her lips. Iris pulled back, her heart stuttering. "What?" "Marry me." He took her hands in his, dirt and all. "Be my queen. Be my mate. Be my partner in all things, forever. I've waited 3 centuries for you, Iris. I don't want to wait any more." She looked down at their joined hands. Her fingers were stained with soil. His were scarred from centuries of warfare. They shouldn't fit together. And yet somehow, impossibly, they did. I don't know how to be a queen. I don't know anything about ruling or diplomacy or... You know how to make things grow." He squeezed her hands. "You know how to see beauty where others see nothing. You know how to survive, how to endure, how to keep going when everything in the world tells you to give up. Those are exactly the qualities a queen needs." "But what if I fail? What if I'm not good enough?" "You are good enough." His voice was fierce. "You have always been good enough. The only people who ever told you otherwise were liars and fools. And you are not going to let their voices in your head steal this from you. Not anymore." She stared at him, this ancient king, this powerful warrior kneeling in the dirt with her, asking her to share his life, asking her to be something she had never dared to dream of being. Yes, she whispered. His face lit up. Yes, yes. She laughed, tears streaming down her cheeks. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll be your queen. Yes, to all of it. Kaelan swept her into his arms and spun her around, heedless of the dirt flying everywhere. She clung to him, laughing and crying at once, feeling something crack open in her chest. All the pain and fear and self-doubt she had carried for 22 years, finally breaking apart under the weight of his love. Mine, he growled when he set her down. You're mine, Iris. Forever. Yours, she agreed. Forever. He kissed her again, softer this time. A promise. A vow. When they finally pulled apart, the sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Iris leaned against his chest, his arms wrapped around her, and marveled at the impossible path that had led her here, from useless to treasured, from burden to beloved, from nobody to queen. I have to tell you something, Kaelan said quietly. She tilted her head to look at him. What is it? Your family has been trying to contact you. Letters, mostly. Your stepmother is suddenly very interested in reconciliation now that you're about to become queen of the Northern Kingdom. The warmth in Iris's chest cooled slightly. What do the letters say? I haven't opened them. They're addressed to you. It's your choice whether to read them or not. He paused. But I should tell you, my advisors have also received reports about Lord Ashford's financial situation. It seems your father's business ventures have not been going well. There are rumors of bankruptcy, of desperation. Iris was quiet for a long moment. She thought about her stepmother's cold eyes, her father's indifference, the years of cruelty and neglect, the slaps and the insults and the relentless campaign to make her believe she was worthless. They don't want reconciliation, she said finally. They want my influence, my access to your wealth and power. Almost certainly. And if I refuse to see them? If I burn the letters without reading them? Then they burn. His arms tightened around her. You owe them nothing, Iris. Less than nothing. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. She thought about it. Really thought about it. About the girl she had been, cowering before her stepmother's rage. About the woman she was becoming, standing in a garden she had built with her own hands, engaged to a king who loved her. Burn them, she said. I don't want to know what they have to say. I don't care anymore. Kaelan pressed a kiss to the top of her head. Done. They'll never bother you again. Promise? I promise. His voice hardened with ancient fury. If any of them ever try to contact you again, they'll discover exactly why people call me a monster. She should probably feel something. Guilt, maybe. Sadness for the family she was cutting out of her life. But all she felt was relief. Clean, pure relief, like finally setting down a burden she had carried for far too long. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For everything. She turned in his arms and looked up at him. Her king, her mate, her future. For seeing me, for saving me, for showing me who I could be. You saved yourself. He cupped her face in his hands. I just gave you the space to do it. She kissed him then, soft and sweet, and full of all the love she had never been allowed to feel. And when he kissed her back, she knew, with absolute certainty, that she had finally found where she belonged. They came anyway. 3 weeks before the wedding, Iris was in the library when the commotion started. Raised voices in the entrance hall, the stamp of unfamiliar boots, the sharp bark of guards demanding identification. She knew, even before she reached the doorway. Knew it in her bones, in the sudden chill that ran down her spine. Her family had come to claim her. Lady Moira stood in the entrance hall, flanked by Cordelia and Beatrice. They were dressed in their finest gowns, silks and velvets that Iris now recognized as increasingly desperate attempts to appear wealthy. Behind them, her father hovered like a pale shadow, his once proud bearing diminished to something small and nervous. "There she is!" Lady Moira's voice rang out, sharp and commanding, the voice that had haunted Iris's nightmares for 22 years. "Iris, darling, we've been so worried about you." Iris felt the old fear rise up in her chest, the instinct to bow her head, apologize, make herself small. For a moment, she was 14 again, cowering before her stepmother's rage. Then Caelan appeared at her side. He moved like smoke, silent and deadly, placing himself between Iris and her family. His presence was a physical barrier, 7 feet of ancient fury wrapped in royal composure. "You were not invited," he said quietly. Lady Moira's smile faltered. "Your Majesty, we simply wanted to see our daughter before the wedding. Surely you can understand." "Your daughter?" Caelan's voice dropped to a dangerous growl. "The daughter you called useless? The one you hit when she displeased you? The one you erased from your family's history? I don't know what stories she's been telling you, but she's told me nothing." He took a step forward, and all 4 Ashfords stumbled back. "She didn't have to. I saw the mark on her face the night we met. I heard her describe herself as worthless, useless, a burden. I watched her flinch at every sudden movement for months, bracing for blows that never came." His golden eyes blazed with fury. "Those are not the behaviours of someone who was loved." "We did love her," Lord Ashford spoke up, his voice weak. "We always loved her. We had a difficult relationship." "You had no relationship at all?" Iris's voice surprised her, steady, clear, stronger than she had ever heard it. She stepped out from behind Caelan, though he stayed close enough to touch. "You never spoke to me unless you were criticizing. You never defended me against her. You pretended I didn't exist, because it was easier than admitting you had failed as a father." "Iris!" "No." The word came out sharp, final. "You don't get to speak, not anymore. I spent 22 years desperate for your approval, your attention, your love, and you gave me nothing, less than nothing. You gave me to her." She gestured at Lady Moira. "And let her tear me apart, piece by piece, while you looked the other way." Lady Moira's face had gone white. "You ungrateful little—" "I'm not ungrateful." Iris held her stepmother's gaze, and for the first time in her life, she didn't look away. "I'm angry. I'm furious. You stole my childhood. You made me believe I was worthless. You hit me, starved me, told me every single day that I was a burden and a mistake. And now you come here, to my home, and call me darling." "We made mistakes," Lord Ashford said desperately. "We know that now. But we're family, Iris. We're your family. Surely that counts for something." "Family doesn't treat each other the way you treated me." Iris's voice cracked, but she pressed on. "Family doesn't beat you for arranging flowers wrong. Family doesn't tell you you're worthless every day until you believe it. Family doesn't pretend you don't exist when it's convenient, and then show up demanding reconciliation when you're about to become queen." Silence fell over the entrance hall. Lady Moira's mask had slipped entirely, revealing the cold calculation beneath. Cordelia and Beatrice huddled behind their mother, their arrogance replaced by fear. "You know why you're really here," Iris continued. "It's not because you love me. It's because Father's business is failing. Because you're running out of money. Because you thought you could manipulate the useless girl you threw away into saving you from the consequences of your own greed." "That's not—" Lady Moira started. "It is." Kaelin's voice cut through like a blade. "My advisors have been monitoring your family since Iris came to live with me. We know about the debts, the failed investments, the creditors circling like vultures." He smiled, cold and sharp. "Your timing is rather transparent." Lord Ashford's face crumpled. "Please, Iris, I know we weren't. I know I wasn't." He stopped, struggling for words. "You're my daughter. My blood. Doesn't that mean anything?" Iris looked at him. Really looked, for perhaps the first time. He was smaller than she remembered. Weaker. Just a man who had chosen comfort over conscience, who had sacrificed his daughter to keep the peace with his second wife. "It meant everything to me once," she said quietly. "I would have done anything for a kind word from you, a smile, a moment of your attention. But you never gave me any of those things. And now it's too late." "Iris, leave." She straightened her spine, feeling Kaelin's steady presence at her back. "Leave this kingdom and never return. I am not your daughter anymore. I am the queen of the Northern Realm, and you are nothing to me." Lady Moira's composure finally shattered. "You can't do this. You owe us. We raised you. We fed you. We kept a roof over your head." "You kept a servant." Iris's voice was ice. "You kept someone to blame when things went wrong. You kept a punching bag for your frustrations and a scapegoat for your failures. That's not raising a child. That's abuse." "Guards." Kaelin's voice rang with authority. "Escort these people to the border. If they ever set foot in my kingdom again, they are to be arrested on sight." The guards moved forward. Lord Ashford made one last, desperate plea. "Iris, please, I'm begging you." But she turned away before he could finish. She didn't watch them leave. She stood in the entrance hall, her hands trembling, her heart pounding, and waited until the sound of their protests faded into silence. Then Kaelin's arms came around her, and she fell apart. She cried harder than she had ever cried in her life. All the pain she had buried for 22 years came flooding out. Every slap, every insult. Every night she had cried herself to sleep, wondering why she wasn't good enough. She sobbed against Kaelin's chest until her throat was raw and her eyes were swollen, and there was nothing left inside her but exhaustion. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm—" "Don't apologize." He held her tighter. "You just did the bravest thing I've ever seen. You faced the people who hurt you most and told them the truth. You have every right to fall apart now." "I thought it would feel different." She wiped at her eyes. "I thought confronting them would feel like victory, but it just feels empty, sad." She looked up at him. "Sad that it had to come to this. Sad that they'll never understand what they did wrong. Sad that I wasted so many years hoping they would change." "That's not wasted time." He brushed the tears from her cheeks. "That's the time it took you to understand your own worth, to stop hoping for love from people who were incapable of giving it, to be ready to accept love from someone who could. You. Me." He kissed her forehead. "I will spend the rest of my life proving that you made the right choice, that you deserve every good thing in this world, that you are the furthest thing from useless anyone could possibly be." She laughed, a wet, broken sound, and pressed her face into his chest. I love you. I love you too. His arms tightened around her. And I am so proud of you, Iris. So incredibly proud. They stood in the entrance hall for a long time, holding each other, while the last echoes of her old life faded into nothing. And when Iris finally lifted her head, she found she could breathe easier than she had in 22 years. The wedding was held on the first day of spring. Iris stood before a mirror in the Queen's chambers, watching as attendants fussed with her gown. White silk, embroidered with climbing roses, a train that pooled behind her like fresh snow. Her dark hair had been woven with tiny flowers from her own garden, and a crown of silver and emeralds rested on her head. She looked like a queen. She felt like one too. "You're stunning." She turned to find Kalen in the doorway, resplendent in black and silver, his golden eyes blazing with love. He looked at her the way he always did, like she was the most miraculous thing he had ever seen, like he still couldn't believe she was real. "You're not supposed to see me before the ceremony," she said, but she was smiling. "I've never been good at following rules." He crossed the room and took her hands in his, "Especially not when my mate is involved." 1 year. It had been 1 year since he had walked into that garden and changed her life forever. 1 year of healing, of growing, of learning what it meant to be loved. She had transformed in that time, not just physically, but in every way that mattered. The fearful girl who flinched at shadows had become a woman who stood tall. The daughter who believed herself worthless had become a queen who knew her own value. "Are you ready?" he asked. "I've been ready since the night you found me in that garden." She squeezed his hands. "I just didn't know it yet." The ceremony was held in the great hall, transformed for the occasion into a wonderland of white flowers and silver ribbons. The entire kingdom had turned out to celebrate. Nobles and common folk, Lycans and humans, all gathered to witness their king finally take a queen. Iris walked down the aisle on steady legs, her eyes fixed on Kalen's face. He watched her approach with an expression of such naked adoration that her heart ached with it. 300 years of loneliness, finally ending. 22 years of pain, finally healed. Two broken souls, finding wholeness in each other. The vows were ancient, spoken in the old tongue of the Lycan people. But when the formal words were done, Kalen added his own. "I take you as my wife, my mate, my queen," he said, his voice ringing through the hall. "I vow to protect you, to honor you, to cherish you in all things. But more than that," his voice roughened with emotion, "I vow to remind you every single day of how extraordinary you are. Your family called you useless, and I called you mine. I will spend the rest of my eternal life proving that I was right and they were wrong." Iris's eyes burned with tears, but she didn't look away. "I take you as my husband, my mate, my king," she replied. "I vow to stand beside you, to support you, to love you with everything I am. 1 year ago, I was hiding in a garden, wearing the mark of my stepmother's hand, convinced I would never be anything but a burden." She paused, steadying herself. "Then you looked at me like I mattered. You told me I was worth saving. You showed me that the lies I had believed for 22 years were exactly that. Lies. I will spend the rest of my days being grateful for you." "The rest of your days," he murmured. "And then some." He kissed her, deep, thorough, claiming, and the hall erupted in cheers. The feast that followed was magnificent, but Iris barely noticed the food or the wine. She was too focused on Kalen, on the warmth of his hand in hers, on the way he looked at her like she was the center of his universe. At some point during the celebration, she noticed a young woman hovering at the edge of the crowd, thin, nervous, eyes downcast in a way Iris recognized all too well. She excused herself from the head table and crossed to the girl. "Are you all right?" The young woman startled, her eyes going wide. "Your Majesty, I... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "You're not in trouble." Iris kept her voice gentle. "I just noticed you looked uncomfortable. Is there something wrong?" The girl hesitated. Then, in a rush, "My stepmother told me I shouldn't have come, that I wasn't important enough to attend a royal wedding, that I would just embarrass myself." She flushed with shame. "I should probably go—" "No." Iris took the girl's hands in hers. "You should stay, and you should know that your stepmother is wrong. You are important. You belong here just as much as anyone else." "But I'm nobody. I'm just—" "Let me tell you something." Iris squeezed the girl's hands. "1 year ago, I was convinced I was useless. My family told me every day that I was worthless, a burden, a mistake. And then a king looked at me and saw something different. He saw someone worth saving, someone worth loving." "You?" The girl's eyes widened. "But you're the queen." "I am now, but I wasn't always." Iris smiled. "The people who tell you you're nothing, they're lying. They're protecting their own weakness by tearing you down. Don't believe them. Don't let their voices become yours." The girl stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, she stood a little straighter. "Thank you, Your Majesty." "Iris." She released the girl's hands. "Call me Iris. And if you ever need someone to talk to, someone who understands, you come find me. That's not a courtesy. That's a promise." The girl nodded, eyes bright with unshed tears, and disappeared back into the crowd. Kaelin appeared at her side, sliding an arm around her waist. "Making royal decrees already?" "Just paying it forward." She leaned into him. "Someone saw something valuable in me when I couldn't see it in myself. The least I can do is try to do the same for others." "Have I told you lately how much I love you?" "Not in the last 5 minutes." "An oversight I intend to correct." He turned her to face him, cupping her face in his hands. "I love you, Iris. More than words can express. More than 3 centuries of loneliness can measure. You are my heart, my home, my everything. And you're mine." She rose on her tiptoes to kiss him. "Forever." Later that night, in the privacy of their chambers, Kaelin held her close and whispered promises against her skin. He told her she was beautiful, told her she was brilliant, told her he would spend every day of his eternal life making sure she never doubted her worth again. Iris fell asleep in his arms, wrapped in warmth and love, and a happiness she had never dared to imagine. She dreamed of gardens blooming in spring. 2 years later, Iris stood on the balcony of the Queen's chambers, watching the sun set over the mountains, her kingdom now, as much as his. In her arms, a newborn daughter slept peacefully, dark hair like her mother, golden eyes like her father. Kaelin came up behind her, wrapping his arms around them both. "You're brooding," he said. "I'm reflecting. There's a difference." "Hmm? And what are you reflecting on?" She leaned back into his warmth, feeling their daughter stir against her chest. "I was thinking about how different my life would be if you hadn't walked into that garden, if you hadn't seen me, if you hadn't decided I was worth saving." "You were always worth saving." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "I was just the lucky one who got to do it." "My family sent another letter." She said it quietly. "My father, begging for help. They've lost everything now. The estate, the money, all of it. Kaylin tensed. Do you want me to? No. She shook her head. I don't want to help them. I don't want to punish them either. I just want them to stop existing in my head. She looked down at her daughter. I want her to grow up knowing she's loved, knowing she's valued, knowing that she is the furthest thing from useless anyone could ever be. She will. Kaylin's voice was fierce. She will know it every single day. We'll make sure of it. What should we name her? He was quiet for a moment. Rose. For the garden where we met. For the flowers you brought back to life. For the beauty that grows when someone takes the time to nurture it. Iris felt tears prick at her eyes. Rose. It's perfect. She looked at her daughter, this tiny, precious creature she had made with the man who had saved her. This child who would grow up knowing nothing but love. I used to believe them, she said softly. My family. When they called me useless, I believed every word. And now? Now I know the truth. She turned in his arms, careful not to wake the baby. I'm not useless. I never was. I just needed someone to see me clearly, to show me what I was worth. And what are you worth? She smiled, the easy, confident smile of a woman who finally knew her own value. Everything? She said. I'm worth everything. Kaylin kissed her softly. Yes, you are. The sun continued to set, painting the mountains in shades of gold and rose. Inside, wrapped in the arms of the man who had claimed her, Iris held her daughter and marveled at the impossible journey that had brought her here. Her family had called her useless, worthless, a burden and a mistake. But the Lycan king had looked at her and seen something different, had seen treasure where they saw trash, had seen a queen where they saw a servant. She was no longer the girl who hid in gardens, wearing the marks of her stepmother's cruelty. She was a queen, a wife, a mother, a woman who had learned that the voices telling her she was nothing had been lying all along. And she would make sure no one ever made her daughter believe those lies. Not ever. Not for a single day.